All right, hey, we're in Matthew chapter 5. You got a Bible? We'll turn there. We're just wandering through this, and so the series that we're looking at is called Jesus in His Own Words, and I think it's important that we do that. It's interesting to me how Jesus comes and goes in the arena of the world, right? And so he's somewhat popular in a lot of ways, sometimes for the wrong reasons. I don't know if you've seen the series Chosen, and it seems like in the Christian world everybody has an opinion about it. You shouldn't watch it because it's not accurate or whatever, or Jesus would never do those things. And then you've got those who watch it and, man, they fall in love with it. Tammy and I listened to a little series this week on the way back from Peachtree City, where they asking people around the world to gather in Utah and binge The Chosen. Have any of you guys seen this thing? It's an amazing little documentary they did. So all these guys binged together on this, and they're all from different backgrounds. Some have been church hurt. Some never grew up in church. Some were abused by. I mean, it's a sundry of people, and some of them I think who'd never even heard of Jesus. And so as you see a few scenes of the deal, they begin to talk about Jesus, and they're laughing because they've never seen Jesus like that. And then some were thinking, man, there's a lot of color in there, so it kind of blows the stereotype of white Jesus out of the water. And so it was just an amazing thing as you heard these people interact and see Jesus from a different perspective. Now, again, whatever you think about the movie or the series is irrelevant at that point. There are people who, when they engage with that thought, they're having to come face to face with who he is, and was he real? And so we got busy talking ourselves and didn't hear the end of it. But they put him on set, and so they got to walk on the set. And then the guy who plays Jesus showed up, and he was like a rock star at that point to them because they're like identifying with that. But it was an interesting conversation. I only say that because that series has sparked a lot of conversation by a lot of people, Christian or not. There's also, a big push within our realm, the Christian realm, right? That Jesus is kind of our life coach, and so that's how people see him, right? He's the guy that's going to fix everything and make everything good, and he's full of real positive statements, and you just feel good about yourself, and you can do anything, right? And while there's a measure of truth to that, there's also the not aspect of that. Then there's the sugar daddy Jesus, I like to call him, right? That's the one where, man, if you just come to Jesus, he's going to fix everything. You're going to have more money you know what to do with. You're going to get so tired of money you're not going to know what to do with it. You're going to have more favor than you know what to do, and everything's going to go your way, and time's going to stand still or go backwards for you, and all of that, right? I mean, we've heard those things before, and there's that. And then there's what's prominent today is a progressive Jesus. That's the one where he's kind of grown with the times, right? So he's aware of what's going on in the world, and so he's just kind of he realizes that certain sins aren't really sin anymore, and so it's okay. It's okay, right? I mean, we looked at that in our deal about truth be told, right? And so that's who he is. He's really, sin's not. It's kind of irrelevant to him anymore. He just wants to love you. And he's decided to just let everybody into the kingdom, and it's okay. We're all going to attend the party, so let's just love each other while we're here. This is out there, big. This is the American church today that's up and coming, and so in Jesus' day, actually in his day, people had their own idea about what the Messiah looked like. They were expecting a warrior king. That's who they thought Jesus was going to be. So when Jesus shows up like he is, they're like, he don't look much like a warrior, like a warrior king. Where's he? And so, they're expecting that. And of course, if they thought that he was going to look anything like their religious leaders, then he was going to be somebody you didn't want to have anything to do with. If you saw them coming, you would kind of sneak the other way, kind of like you're in school and you're doing wrong, and the principal's walking down the hall. It's like, I don't want to be there, right? And so it's that kind of a thing. And so Jesus was something to be. They assumed if Jesus were to show up, he's something to be feared. And then Jesus, unannounced, really, other than if you were in the wilderness when John the Baptist baptized him, and then he went into the wilderness and dealt with Satan. When he comes back out, he just begins to do these healings and deliverances, and so people begin. There's a rumbling of there's something different's going on around here, right? And so that's what's happening. And so then Jesus goes to the mountain to pray. He comes down, his disciples gather, but so have everybody else. And most of those who have gathered are there simply because they want to hear more. That really they came for healing. That's all they came for. So that was everybody was doing that at that point. But there was something about him. If you read through the scriptures, you'll see where they would say things like, "Never has anyone spoke with the authority that he speaks." He has a command of things. It's not this arrogant thing. It's just like almost like he's the author of everything, right? Like he created it. And they're like, this is weird. He's not like, he doesn't have an opinion. He's just stating fact. And so it was blowing them away. And of course, the Pharisees were a little upset about it because one of the first things he did, right, was turn over their little apple cart, so to speak, in a literal sense, right? Goes into the temple and goes, "This is my Father's house, and you won't turn it. It's a house of prayer. You're not going to turn it into this." And he went crazy and flipped tables over. So he already has a few enemies. You could understand that, right? You just destroyed somebody's business and made them look like an idiot because they were trying to pretend they were in charge, and all of a sudden the guy in charge does show up. You've been called out. And so that's what's going on. And so this is where we find ourselves. And so this ruling class, the Pharisees that he will speak against, they were pro-law and pro-tradition. They assumed so would Jesus be. And so when Jesus shows up and he doesn't appear to be that way, and this is the conversation we're going to today, then they had some issues, right? So by the time Jesus shows up, he's going to speak about the law today. And this is why I want to set the tone for that. He's doing what is known as the Sermon on the Mount. And so in Jesus' day, the law has done its job already. The law was only designed to do one thing, to show you and me we can't keep it, right? That's it. And it was evident. I mean, we've had lots of years that the law was in place and nobody kept it, though the Pharisees would say they did. And this is, again, what he's going to attack. There's a message in here for you and me just to be mindful of. And so that's what I want us to look at. So I don't know if you know this or not, but you haven't been able to keep the law. Anybody here done that? Nobody's kept the law, right? Okay. Because they thought they did. And they even had special laws, rules, tradition that they said to clarify what those laws were, right? And so this was what Jesus is going to address, and I just kind of want us to hear it fresh from him. But Jesus came to usher in a new covenant to say, look, the law did its job. You're hopeless. You're all lost. If you were to read through the book of Romans, you're going to see where no one's doing the right thing anymore. No one loves God. No one seeks after God. No one does God. Everybody's playing a game. This was how they lived their life. This is what they were doing. And Jesus comes along and says, you need to know that. You need the bad news before you can hear the good news. The bad news, not to them, he doesn't say it. It's what will be inferred as he goes down the life. Is that though if you think getting to heaven by earning it is how you're going to get there, you're in a heap of trouble. This is where we're going, and this is what I want us to look at. So he is now bringing grace and love, which feels a lot different than the law, and this is why it's important for you and me to begin to have this conversation. And so it's important for a couple of things to understand. The Pharisees that these people were used to, I know we're going to get to the text in a second. I'm trying to set you up. The Pharisees that they were used to were the kind that made you feel like you never were good enough, like you never measured up, like you always were just that short of having enough change to buy whatever it is you thought you could buy. And so you were always in this mode of just trying to catch up. And then along comes Jesus, and he's building relationships and not rules. And see, this is a crucial thing for parenting, right? A good parent, this is a rule that Tammy and I have learned and we teach everywhere we go and talk about parenting. Rules minus relationship will always equal rebellion, right? That's true. You give your kids a bunch of rules and you have no relationship with them, they may obey you for a minute, but as soon as they get a chance and they see they can dart out of there and do what they want to, they're going to. Because you didn't build a relationship. Relationships is what draws people. Christ now shows up on the scene, and he's about relationships, not rules. So they were told you shouldn't hang out with tax collectors and sinners. Jesus, walking down the road, sees a little tax collector in the tree, right? You remember that story? Right? Little Zacchaeus hikes his little dress up and climbs that tree. I know it wasn't a dress, but it makes it more fun to tell the story. Slithers out on that limb with probably all the other kids who were just trying to see who Jesus was. All the little short people, right, were climbing on that limb, and so he's out there on that limb. And Jesus, knowing that, he just wants to hear about. He just wants to see him. He's not interested in an encounter with him. He just wants to go. He's curious. That's all Zacchaeus is. He climbed on the tree, what? To see what he could see, right? That's the little song. Not to have a conversation. Jesus isn't about rules, and he's not about going, you don't measure up. You're a dirty scoundrel. He stops underneath that limb and says, hey, Zacchaeus, why don't you come on down here, man? You look like you're a little uncomfortable, and besides, you don't belong up there. Come on down. I'm going to go to your house, and we're going to have dinner today. That messed everything up about these Pharisees, because he would dare to eat with tax collectors and sinners. But Jesus wasn't excusing any of their wrong. He was simply saying, I'm going to demonstrate love to them. This is the crucial piece that you have to see. It's the same thing when he went to the woman at the well. He's not supposed to talk to Samaritans. They're Jew dogs. They're just scum of the earth, and you shouldn't do that. Yet Jesus says we must go through Samaria. Why? Because he wanted to establish a relationship with that lady. You know why? Because she had no relationships. We all know. You know the story. She came in midday. She didn't come in the morning when all the other women did, because the other women came in the morning and talked about all the women that weren't doing right. And she was one of those that wasn't doing right. So why am I going to go hang out with those women who are talking about me all day everywhere they can and are afraid I'm going to steal their man? Because I've already stolen 4 others, right? This is who she's going. This is who she is. And so when he comes up to her, he offers her a relationship. Yeah, I know about all your husbands. I know the one you're living with is not your husband now. And then she goes, oh, well, let's change the subject because this is getting personal. And she starts talking about, well, we worship God over here. How do you guys worship? He goes, hey, there's going to come a day and a time when it's not going to matter about that. Let me tell you, though, we're here at this well, and I know I asked you for water, but if you knew what I could offer you, you'd never thirst again, right? What's he building with her? A relationship. See, Jesus is so vastly different than everything else. And it's important that we see this and we understand that. It's the same thing with the woman caught in adultery. Again, what was her penalty for adultery? Death, stoning, right? And so they're thinking, you violated the law. You should have had her stoned. That's when he says, hey man, if you think that's what you ought to do, have at it. Pick up the stone then. Go ahead. And then he writes in the ground, right? I can't hardly tell that story without thinking of what he's writing in the ground. I got to believe he's writing women's names that all those Pharisees had sex with, and he's just going to write that name in there, all of a sudden waking them up to go, oh, well, maybe I won't throw a stone today. Maybe I'll just go on my business, right? But then what does he do? He looks at her, and he says, hey, does no one condemn you? And she said, no, sir. He said, then neither do I. But what does he say? Go and sin no more. See, the law matters to him, but he understands we can't keep it. This is the relationship that Jesus brings to things. It's what he did to the lepers, right? The lepers, if you were to read the scriptures, lepers in Leviticus 15, had to scream out, I'm unclean. They had to do that, and they had to stay away. Here's a leper that says, I'm not staying away. You know why? Because he saw something in Jesus different than everybody else. And Jesus allowed him to come to him. Irritated the mess out of the Pharisees. How can you do that? He doesn't only just allow the man to come to him. The man says, will you make me clean? And the scripture says he's moved with compassion and he touches him. That's the unforbidden. And not if you're God. And so he embraces him and he says, I am willing. And he made him whole. Right? This is what he did. He was establishing this was so contrary to everything else. We could go on story after story we could talk about. We could talk about Mary and Martha, right? Martha's over there trying to keep the law in that sense. Mary's like, hey, I kind of like to hang out with Jesus, right? And what did Jesus say about that? Martha, you got the whole world, time to clean everything up later. Mary, she's chosen the best part, man. We're enjoying life. Why don't you come sit down? Let's have a relationship. See, I say that because I want us to understand this is who he was. Now, he wasn't tolerant and affirming Jesus. That's what people want to believe right now, that he affirms everybody. No, he's still got his standard. We're going to read that in a minute. He didn't come to abolish the law. He came to establish it, to fulfill it. But yet he's patient, isn't he? Right? In the same way his father was. When his father saw the world in a similar condition in Noah's day, he said, I'm sorry he made you guys. I'm going to give you 120 years to see if you'll repent. I'm going to let Noah build a boat just to create some curiosity, have conversation, because he's a righteous man. I'm going to give him a platform to have a conversation with you, because when you come out to ask him what he's building, why is it so large, he's going to tell you about me, you should pay attention. So for 120 years he does that, and they did not. See, he's patient. He wasn't affirming them in their lifestyle, though they may have thought that's what he was doing. He was simply patient. Peter says the same thing. Listen, God's not slow about his promises, some count slowness. He's just not willing that any should perish, but all will come to Christ. Don't mistake God's patience with your sin to be an affirmation of your sin. He's simply interested in a relationship with you and willing to allow that to take place while you begin to discover who he is, right? And so this is the whole thing that's going on. So he embodied the law. Yet, he was holy in the process. That's what the Pharisees were not. So this is good. I'm trying to get to the text, but I just keep having these thoughts. I want us to understand, he's not interested in beating you and me up over our sin. Do you hear that? I want you to hear that again. He's not interested in beating you up over your sin. He just wants it gone. This is it. He's not mad. His wrath is coming. And so you may get the impression that's only because he understands the urgency that the wrath of God is being stored up. And so it's the love of God that constrains God to send his son into the world. And it's the love that he shows while he is in the world. Not meant to say, oh, well, hey, we're cool then with Jesus. No. It's meant to say that, you mean God loves me that much? That in the midst of my sin, he would see me and still want a relationship with me? Knowing that I mean, that's in a sense kind of worthless. He doesn't care. That's the song Jireh, right? I mean, that's what it is. That's who he is, right? I can't mess this thing up. He already knew I was messed up when he came into my life. And so this is the truth that I want us just to see. That's why he identifies with the sick and the sinful and the poor and the needy. That's why they were all there. That's why they're on that mountainside that day. And he knows they're sheep without shepherds. If he's mad at anybody, he's mad at the Pharisees. That's why you're going to see they're going to catch the brunt of everything. And so he identifies, and now we'll get sort of to the text. He identifies the people who are blessed. Remember, that's what we first looked at, right? And let's just run through that list really quick. Blessed are the poor in spirit, right? That is, blessed are those who are humble, not those who think they got it all together. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn, right? Who have compassion, who feel sorrow. Blessed are those that can do that. Blessed are the gentle and the meek. Those who have put their strength under control and says it's pointless to just be mad at everybody all the time. I'm going to be gentle and meek, and I'm going to be patient. Blessed are those who hunger after righteousness, who don't think they already are good enough, but know in their knower in the inside that I should throttle back my arrogance because I'm no better than anybody else. Blessed are you, he says. Blessed are the merciful, those who feel other people's pain. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are those who have a pure heart just to know who he is. Blessed are the peacemakers, right? Blessed are those who are persecuted. This is who he identified. And so that's the who. Who's he talking to? Those people. So if you're sitting on that hillside and you're a Pharisee, you're getting a little upset because you're thinking, no, that's not what they are. I've been telling my whole life they're not that. They're not like us. God loves us. God doesn't love you. I'm trying to help you learn that God can love you, but you got to behave. This is what they were doing. But all of the common folk are hearing this going, whoa. Blessed are those that it doesn't sound like the Pharisees, right? And so this is what's going on. And so He says, you're blessed if you've quit chasing after wealth and comfort and power and fame. If you read the same text in Luke, that's what he says. But woe to you. And all those woes talk about that. And so listen, on this earth, if we're going to be all about wealth and power and money and fame, you're sorely disappointed. It's not about that. You can't put your faith in that stuff. It's about relationship with the King of Kings. It has nothing to do with whatever's going on in this world. Everything in this world is going to burn up and blow up, right? We used to have a statement back when I was doing youth ministry back in the 1900s, 1920, 30, whenever we were doing that. And it was going to be, if it's going to burn, no concern. That was what I said before, if God don't help, help ain't coming, or I have lots to think about but nothing to worry about. But if it's going to burn, there's no concern with that. I forgot I said that, but a youth pastor in Pinson who used to be in my youth group said, hey, remember when you said that? And I'm like, man, that was ages ago. You know, he was like 90. So that's how that goes. But the point is that this is what he's doing. Then he looked at the why. So why are we here? If we're not here to gather fame, fortune, and everything else, why am I here? I'm here to be salt, and I'm here to be light. He said, that's what you are. You are the salt of the earth. You're the light of the world. So suddenly he says those who are blessed are those who, really, it comes down to humility, who know they're not God and know they need God. All those Beatitudes reduced down to that. And he said, but you're here because you're to be salt and you're to be light. And we know that salt, we looked last week, it does three things, right? It preserves, it cleans. That's what they would clean babies with. They would take the raw salt and they would rub that baby down. It would harden the skin, and it would also allow it to be porous and let just life come and go in the skin. And so that's what they would do with babies. They used to salt them. But so it preserves it, it cleans, and it enhances. That's what you and me do. We just live in our life. We have the ability. Because listen, how many times have you walked into a room? Maybe not. You know, but it seems like with me, if somebody ever finds out I'm a pastor, I don't want anybody to know that that's what I do. But occasionally they find out, and when they do, it's like, you know, oh, sorry, pastor, didn't mean to cuss, right? Why does that happen? Why do they say that? Because there's something about the fact that they think I am something related to God that says I should try to clean up my act, right? That's not a bad thing. And I'm not saying that everybody should run around doing that. But I mean, hopefully when we come into a room, we keep people from doing stupid, sinful things just by our presence. This is what he said. Those who do that, that's who's blessed. See, but that wasn't true of the Pharisees, not in that sense. And then he says that we're the light of the world, right? You and me live our life in such a way that we don't even have to have a conversation with them. And they would do. Man, I wish I could remember the president. I think it was Woodrow Wilson, if he lived in the same time frame that D.L. Moody did. They were in the barbershop at the same time, and D.L. and president didn't know who that guy was. He knew when he walked in the bar. I mean, in the bar, when he walked into the barbershop, that he spoke to everybody and treated them like they were somebody, and everybody was different because that man was in the room. And when D.L. Moody walked out, if you know D.L. Moody, he was a shoe salesman that got saved, yeah, and then went on a tear. And America was embarrassed of him when he went to England because he could not speak grammar in any way that made any sense. And they were just embarrassed that we would send that kind of a bumpkin over there. When he gets over there, he preaches one morning and not much happens, but there were two ladies that were there, and that, you don't mind me telling these stories. There were two ladies that were there that heard him and said, hey, you need to come to our house for lunch. And they got into his house for lunch, and they explained to him the Spirit of Christ, and they placed their hands on him, and they prayed over him. He said, I preached the same message that night, and the whole place came converted. He said, from that moment on, everywhere I went, he said, the gospel flourished. That man walked into that barbershop. That man did. Not having said anything to anybody. And the President of the United States goes, there's something different about that man. That's what it means to be light. Light doesn't mean I'm going to go with my megaphone and go, I'm a Christian, you should behave. That's not light. Light means I live the glory of God unencumbered. That's why, listen, the most powerful thing you and me can do is not worry about anything, because when the whole world's worrying and you're going, it's cool, man. It's okay. Lord gives, Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. That's like an earthquake to people because they don't understand how that happens. That's why it's important that you and me just be this. Now we're going to get to the text for today. It's going to be quick. It's not a big. So today is what's he doing, right? And so I just want us to. Why am I in Romans? Matthew 5. So let me read verse 13. That's the run and start to 17. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? And basically he's saying that's kind of where you are. God designed you. He called Abraham your father out so that you would be different. You ended up just like everybody else. You chased after the same gods, and here you are now, 400 years of silence until John the Baptist shows up, and you've lost your tastiness. I'm here to give it back to you, right? Can it be made salty again? Not on your strength. It's no longer good for anything. You're the light of the world, the city set on a hill. It cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Your light must shine before people in such a way they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Do not presume that I came to abolish the law or the prophets. This is what the Pharisees were thinking. He's breaking the law. You see him. He's healing on the Sabbath. He and his men are eating wheat off the chaff on Sunday. That means they're working. And remember how upset he got that they were doing all of those things? I did not come to abolish the law. I came to fulfill it. For truly I say to you, until heaven and earth shall pass away, not the smallest letter or the stroke of the letter of the law shall pass from the law, until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever nullifies one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same shall be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever keeps and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. And then he makes this blasting statement. This is powerful here. For I say to you, Jesus, we're getting ready to get into it. Listen, next week, bring your boots. I mean, he's going to start saying, you have heard it said, but I say to you. And we're going to talk about lust, and we're going to talk about hate, and we're going to talk about all the things that we like to think we don't worry about. And he's going to say, listen, I'm going to tell you what the truth is, in his own words. But right now he says, for I say to you, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, that's the standard. For them, the standard was the Pharisees and the scribes. They were perfect. They were that, everything right. Goody two-shoes. But they weren't. He said, you're right. I know you think they're perfect. You have to be a step above that. They're going, there is no step above that. What do you mean there's a step above that? Because he said it's going to be about the heart. It's not about those actions. He said, and he doesn't say it here, but this is what he will say, and they'll realize the point of this. You people are like whitewashed tombs. It's all pretty. It's all pretty and clean on the outside. You got all that together. But if we crack open that white tomb, we're going to see nothing but dead men's bones. And you're like those people who only clean the outside of the bowl. Bowl's all pretty on the outside. Till you get up top and start to pour your cereal in and realize there's a thick layer of it already in there that's all moldy and everything else. That's your life. That's what he's telling them. Because you thought it was all about cleaning the outside up. And God said, I came to clean the inside up. That's the whole point. So this is where he's going. And so he's answering the what. What is he doing? Well, he's not breaking the law. He's superseding the law. He was violating their traditions, eating with tax collectors. He even got on there one time because he was saying, you say that you would tithe and you would do all that, but you can't. You would take care of your mom and dad, but you can't because you've already set aside that money for God, right? That's what they were telling him. Well, we would love nothing better to help mom and dad. I mean, I see them struggling, but alas, I have taken all the money and set it aside that was sanctified by God. Now, what that meant was they were going to use it for their dirty, rotten, stinking scoundrel self. That's all that was. And he called them out on it. And he was doing that constantly. You want to know why they killed him? Because they got tired of him constantly pointing out their mess. Because if you want to be perfect and you're not, you're going to kill the messenger. And that's what they did. And so this is the point of everything he's saying here. Pharisees had not only the law, but they had also had tradition. So when Jesus comes along and he calls them all that, that's what's going on. So we all fall in that same trap, though, if we're not careful, right? We love to. In fact, if you keep up with what's going on in the world, there's a term that we use a lot that everybody hates. We say, well, I'm just blessed. Think about that when you say that, right? I got a new car. I'm just blessed. Oh, really? So I don't have a new car. I'm not blessed? What does that mean, right? And again, you get a new car, good for you. And I understand we do feel blessed. There is that measure of saying it is anything God gives us, we're blessed, right? But when we say it in some term, it's almost like we're justifying our greed in some sense. And I'm not getting myself in trouble. Am I making sense to you? Because this is what we do, right?
Yes.
I mean, I know it doesn't mean I'm believing I'm not the only person that sometimes thinks I'm blessed because I got stuff, and I realize, well, wait a minute, but I'm also blessed if I have nothing, right? Or give Lord, I'm going to be grateful. Maybe blessed isn't the best term to use, but we use that so we can couch our greed. Well, I'm just blessed. We'll do the same thing. This is age old, right? It's just prayer concerns. I'm not gossiping about anybody. I'm just sharing a concern with you. I'm just concerned. Just concerned. Mike and Linda having trouble. You see it. I'm just concerned about it, right? I mean, that's what we're doing. Why am I doing that? Because I want you to know I know something about them that you don't know. Not that I do. They're great people. That's why I picked them out. But that's the whole deal. And then we do the same thing with our anger, don't we? Well, I'm just telling it like it is. Don't hate me because I'm telling the truth. Well, there's a nice way to say it. There's an angry way to say it. We're not that much different from the Pharisees. We believe we're right in every action that we take, even though God would go, sin, sin, sin. That's what I see, right? And so this is the whole point of what he was doing. Now, to be specific about the law real quick, and I'm going to let us go. From a historical perspective, they all understood when he said the law, that there were three aspects to the law. So hear me on this because it's a little, theological. There's the moral law. That's the Ten Commandments, right? Those are moral laws. They're still enforced today. All Jesus did was take them and shrink them down to two. He took the first four commandments, which are all about worshiping God, and said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and soul. He took the last six of those 10 commandments and says, love your neighbors yourself. The last 6 commandments all deal with how we should love each other, not covet each other's stuff, not commit adultery, all of those aspects of things, not lie to one another. And the others were having no gods before us. So that's the moral law. Then there was judicial law, right? They had laws because they had we have laws. We have judicial laws in our country because we live in a country. Israel, before now it's not, but it was a country. They had laws. Now Rome has overtaken them, and those laws are of no effect, but they were still trying to practice those laws. And then you had the ceremonial laws, which were the ones that were designed to show us that we can't be good. We cannot be good enough, right? And so what happened was the moral law was fulfilled perfectly when he died on that cross. He fulfilled those laws. Then he gives you and me the power to live those laws that exceeds the righteousness of the Pharisees and the scribes. That's where he's going with that. The judicial law was fulfilled on the cross. They were judged deficient as they didn't measure up, and so death was the penalty, and he took that death for them. So the judicial law is carried forward. The ceremonial law, well, it was fulfilled in the sacrificial death of Christ. That's why the veil was torn in two. That's why they can't worship anybody today. They can't have sacrifices today. Why? Because it's abolished. He fulfilled all that. What they couldn't do, he did through that sacrifice. So Jesus is speaking in authority with compassion. He didn't affirm their sin. He was just patient with it. And so this was his point. And this is what's blowing the lid off this message that he's preaching today. And the message for you and me is, thank God that he did. Because you and me can't keep this law. And unless I realize it, unless God don't help, help ain't coming, right? I need his grace in my life. Now I stand, and we talk about this all the time. If you have put your faith in Christ, then you're at peace with God. That's what Paul told the Roman church. God's not mad at you anymore. He's at peace. He's not ever going to be not at peace with you. You can't do anything now to mess it up. The song Jireh, right? I didn't do anything to earn his love. I'm not doing anything to have him hate me. He's never going to love you any more than he does right now. This is truth. You're at peace with God. He's not at war with you. You, while that wrath is coming, there's a path. He has taken you, and He has moved you out of the way of that path. You never have to fear the wrath of God. Ever again, ever, never, ever. He has taken you out of the path of the wrath of God. He has set your feet on solid ground. You're safe. Not only that, He has caused you to stand in His grace. That's what Paul also says to the Roman church. I stand in grace. If you're insane, sometimes they put you in a padded cell so you can't hurt yourself. You know, I've never been in one, but I do understand that's what they do. And they give you a straitjacket sometimes so you can't do anything else. Well, picture yourself when you came to Christ. You've been put in a padded world called grace. You can't hurt yourself. His grace is, you're standing on it. You're swimming in it. You're surrounded by it. You will never, ever walk anywhere in this world that you aren't covered by the grace of God. That is an amazing truth that you and I need to understand. And this is what he's talking about here. This is the whole point of him saying this aspect of unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, you'll no way in the kingdom of God. When I put my faith and trust in Christ, He declared me perfect. He declared you perfect. Perfect. Not almost, not sorta, not we're going to pretend. You're perfect. That's how He sees you. That's why the blood of His Son constantly cleanses you from all sin. This is good stuff. I hope you guys are catching this. It blows me away every time I say it out loud. That there is not one place that I can go that I can get in trouble. I can stand right here today and I can sin, and I'm underneath a flood of the blood of Christ, so that sin, though it was real and it caused harm, God doesn't see it in my world. It's covered. This is powerful truth, right? And so you need to know these things about who you are. Now He's making me holy. He's getting rid of all the junk in my life so that I become a little more like Him. So I am more humble every day. And if you're not moving toward humility, you miss the boat. And we're gentle instead of harsh. And if you're not moving toward gentleness, you've missed the boat. And we're patient. These are all things Paul told the Ephesian church. We're patient. That is, that we're unmoved by circumstances. If you let circumstances dictate your temperature and your character and everything else, listen, rethink that whole process. And I'm also forbearing. If you're letting people get up underneath your skin, you need to rethink what's going on, right? This is what he says, because this is who He's called us to be. This is who we can be. I have no reason to worry about anything. I am safe and secure in a boat that will not sink. Man, that's good stuff. I could keep talking, but I'm not. Glad you came. Let's sing our